Tonight, it's the economy. New disappointing numbers for the Trump administration shows the U.S. economy shrinking.
You probably saw some numbers today. And I have to start off by saying that's Biden. That's not Trump.
President Trump reacts and doubles down on his tariff strategy. Plus, he's out.
It's an honor to serve you in this administration.
Weeks after Signalgate, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz gets let go, but offered a new position. And prayer at the White House. On the National Day of Prayer, President Trump signs an executive order creating a commission on religious liberty. Our panel is with us to discuss this Faith Nation Friday. From immigration legal battles to the formation of a religious liberty commission, the White House hits the 100-day mark running. Good evening in Washington, I'm Jenna Browder. To break it all down, we are joined by our panel, CBN News chief political analyst David Brody and host of Navigating Trump 2.0, John Stolnis. Gentlemen, welcome. So the White House crossed the 100-day mark this week. Let's start with one high point, one low point from each of you so far. David, to you first.
The border is the high point. The stats bear it out. 99.99999%. Anyhow, the point is it's all down at the border in terms of folks coming across it. So obviously that's the high point. I mean, unless you're an open borders crowd, then I guess it'd be the low point. But I think most people want a secure border. And if that's the case, it's the high point. And there's not even any question about that. The low point, I mean, there are a couple, but I would say Signalgate is probably the low point in terms of the controversy that kind of, snared this administration a little bit in the first 100 days. Wasn't huge, but it was big enough to basically get the ouster of National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, though there was more to it than just that. But I would say those are the two, Jen.
Yeah. John, to you?
Yeah, and I would say as we're talking about the high point, I think we're talking about in terms of the people who voted for him and people for whom he's kept his promises so far in the first 100 days, because he's certainly done that, whether you like the promises or don't care for the promises. And I think one of the promises that he's kept that his supporters, I'm sure, are really excited about are the cuts to the government, DOGE, U.S. aid, the Department of Education changes there. He is radically reshaping and shrinking the size of the government in a way that conservatives have wanted some administration, some Republican administration to do for a very long time. And that's been one of the high points of his first 100 days. They have really honed in on doing that. And then as far as a low point, I think the tariffs and the reaction in the markets to the tariffs, the hand-wringing and the worry about a recession, I think it's kind of an incomplete, but at the moment it's polling very badly. And there's a lot of worry and there's a lot of concern for most Americans about what these tariffs are going to mean, what a trade war like China is going to mean. And so I agree with David. I think Signalgate is probably the worst moment, but I think this could end up being the worst moment as we see things play out, if things move down the field like some economists are worried they will.
Yeah. Well, Jenna, let me just quickly piggyback off of that and say, look, this is crucial for Donald Trump, right? I mean, he's the businessman, right? He's got the gold toilets. He's got hundreds of millions of dollars. He's the guy that is successful when it comes to economics. If the economy goes south on Trump, quite frankly, on any president, but especially on Trump, that's a major problem, not just for the country, but damage to his legacy.
Yeah, to President Trump's credit on the tariffs, he campaigned on that, so he is delivering on that, like it or not. It's been a tough week for the president in terms of approval ratings. PBS NPR Marist poll found 53% disapprove of his job performance. CBS YouGov, 55% disapproving. New York Times Siena, 54% disapproval rating. Pew with a 59% disapproval. You get the picture. David, what is at the heart of these numbers, and is it something that we could see turn around in the next 100 days?
Well, yes, it definitely could turn around. And of course, I think these next 100 days are more crucial than the first 100 days because we have to see what kind of deals are going to be made on tariffs and see where that goes. And then let's see where the country is in another 100 days or so. And of course, we'll know about budget reconciliation and that one big, beautiful bill to see if that gets done. So I think those poll numbers will most likely come up if everything goes well. Having said that, let me just quickly say that, look, those poll numbers, I'm not quite sure I buy them. I'm not saying that there isn't something to them. Having said that, there's a media that continues to say this Trump administration is in controversy all the time, that Trump is a dictator and he's a king and the X, Y, and Z. 92% of the coverage is negative. Don't take my word for it. It's the Media Research Center that came up with that from ABC, NBC, CBS. 92% of the stories done on Donald Trump in the first 100 days are negative.
Let's talk about immigration in just the few seconds we have left. The president touting his accomplishments on immigration. We also saw a pair of rulings, though, come down from judges this week, federal judges challenging the White House immigration tactics. That seems to be what's stalling what the administration wants to do with immigration. John, just a quick comment on that.
Yeah, we were told during the campaign that this would be the largest mass deportation in U.S. history, and certainly there have been more of them than during the Biden administration and during his first administration in the White House. But I don't think we've seen the kind of mass deportations that we were thinking we were going to see. And a lot of this has to do with we're getting some roadblocks. Judges are putting up roadblocks. The judicial system is trying to act as that stopgap to some of the things Trump wants to do.
Yeah, about 66,000 deported so far. President Trump thinks about 20 million illegal immigrants are actually in the country. So just scratching the surface there. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Panel, stay with us. The future of Doge is coming up next. With Elon Musk stepping back, what happens to the team tasked with cutting spending? We'll discuss.
Congratulations to everyone on 100 days. That's been it's unparalleled. It is my memory and best I can tell ever. But it hasn't been busy for busy's sake. The president's promises made to the American people have been kept, tried and time again. You all have been out there spreading the word with community groups and states and media. It hasn't gone unnoticed, and let's work hard to the next 100 and have equally as much success then.
And that was White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles commenting on the team's first 100 days in office. Gentlemen, let's compare this version of the Trump White House to the previous term. David, what sticks out to you?
Better disciplined, they're having more fun, better staff, so much more. In the first Trump administration, they were just trying to figure out Washington and figure out how to tame bureaucracy. This time around, they're providing a master class and being very disciplined in how to go about doing it, Jenna. Yeah,
John, what about you?
I think this time around, the president has more of his people around him. The first time around, I don't think there was a Republican establishment that didn't trust Donald Trump. He was not the Republican they wanted in the White House in 2016. And so there were people within his administration actively pushing back, setting up roadblocks, firewalls to some of the things that he wanted to get accomplished. And he also didn't have a Congress that was totally controlled by Republicans that was willing to do whatever the Trump administration wanted or give him that leeway to do it.
Yeah. So on Elon Musk and the Department of Government efficiency really dominated a lot of the headlines for these first 100 days. Where do you think that effort is headed next? John, to you.
I think it's winding down to some degree. We're not hearing as much about it. We're also hearing Elon Musk wants to start to devote more of his attention to Tesla. Obviously, the automaker has taken a hit in terms of their bottom line over the last few months, and we're not hearing about Elon Musk's young guys in the Commerce Department or the Treasury Department or wherever they are going through the data trying to find more jobs to cut, and the massive layoffs of federal workers seems to have trickled down. So I don't know if they're trying to hone in on more specific things, but it does feel like there was a crest there at the start of the administration, and then it's starting to wind down now.
Yeah, David, what have you made of this whole Doge effort?
Well, I'm not a rocket scientist, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that there's clearly been a PR attempt by this White House to tame it down, to tell Elon Musk to kind of settle it down, have the geek squad, if you will, the Doge geek squad, settle it all down. In other words, we don't need the headlines every single day about what you're cutting. Let's do this a little bit smarter, and that's why it's going through the cabinet secretaries and the cabinet agencies, and Congress obviously will have a role. So they got the ball rolling, and I think it'll go from there.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the shakeups we've seen. Just this week, we saw a shakeup involving Mike Waltz from National Security Advisor. Now he's headed to the UN. Marco Rubio, at least temporarily Secretary of State and acting National Security Advisor. David, do you expect any other changes to come? There's been talk about Hegseth, maybe getting a talk from the president. What are you hearing?
Yeah, no, I don't expect Hegseth to go anywhere unless there's another signal debacle. As for Walz, it's funny, J.D. Vance, the vice president, said it was a promotion over to the UN. Ha, LOL, that's hilarious. No, it wasn't. They wanted Mike Walz out of the White House because he's more of a neocon, and the White House is made up of the anti-neocons, and they didn't want that voice inside the national security arena inside the White House. So you got to get him out of the four walls over to the UN.
Yeah. Okay, gentlemen, we are going to take another break, but up next we talk about the president's faith team and their efforts to tackle religious persecution. That's next.
We have a magnificent inheritance of religious liberty. And every believer today, no matter your faith, has a claim to that inheritance. We were a nation birthed by prayer, founded on the Judeo-Christian ethic, to ensure that people could worship as they wished without interference from government, but that is no longer the case. The last administration attacked people of faith for 4 years. There's a saying that no one should get between a doctor and a patient. I think we would say no one should get between God and a believer.
And that was Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick with President Trump in the Rose Garden this week for the National Day of Prayer. David, what did you make of the event, and what does that say to people of faith to see something like this in the Rose Garden?
Well, that faith is alive and well in the White House, and we knew that in the first term, and we know it in the second term. Nothing has really changed, Jenna. There has been no slack off, if you will. You know, there was the Black Robe Regiment, as you know, Jenna. We've talked about this before. The revolutionary pastors of the 1700s that were speaking about the political, moral, cultural, ideological issues of the day. Well, along come these pastors now that are doing the same, and they're led, believe it or not, that's right, by Donald Trump. Now, what do I mean by led? I mean, Donald Trump doesn't have a robe. Donald Trump doesn't have a pulpit, but he has a bully pulpit. And that bully pulpit is what's really leading the way. He is giving folks, pastors, and folks in the pews, real confidence to say, you know what, I'm a believer, and I'm not going to worry about what people have to say about it, and just there's just been a boldness to it, and that's impressive.
Yeah, let's talk about the Religious Liberty Commission the president announced. John, what will that do? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's going to be put in place to make sure that religious liberty in the United States is alive and well, and that the thing that this country, one of the bedrocks that this country was founded on was freedom of religion, the freedom to practice your religion freely without government interference. And I think that's one of the things that we just heard Lieutenant Governor Patrick saying is, of all faiths, and we're Christians, and obviously we care deeply about how Christians are, how we're allowed to practice our faith, but this really does apply to all faiths in the United States, and it was good to see them acknowledge that in the Rose Garden yesterday, because we are a country that is founded on the freedom of people to practice their religions, and so provided you're not harming the people, you're not harming the government, you're not doing something illegal, it's good to see a White House that is supporting freedom of religion.
I mean, whenever we see a faith event or something like this, there's a lot of talk then that comes up about President Trump's personal faith. David, you've actually written a book about it. Some people, they say that post the Butler assassination attempt, he's a changed man. Yesterday, he got some credit for mentioning not just God generically, but mentioning the name of Jesus. David, talk to us about Donald Trump's personal faith, and what do you make of this personal faith journey of his?
Yeah, I wrote a book called The Faith of Donald Trump, interviewed him in the Oval Office in 2018. There's a lot of folks that are around him talking to him about Jesus. I've talked to many folks that say that he said the sinner's prayer and that he believes in Jesus. And now, in terms of what you're going to see from an external perspective, I think that's the guy from Queens. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can take the guy to Queens, but you can't take Queens out of the guy. And I think that's where some people go, well, wait a minute. Well, he's just being, DNA-wise, a guy from Queens. But that's from my reporting in the book. I will say this. One thing he asked me in the Oval Office, Jenna, I thought was really interesting, and I'll be brief. Yeah, I'll be really brief here. But I said, what is it about evangelicals that attracts you? He goes, I love their passion for God. He loves people that are passionate. And when he sees evangelicals worshiping, they love it.
Okay. David Brody, John Stolnis, thank you so much. Have a great weekend, guys.
You too.
And when we come back, a deeper look at the president's faith initiatives, a one-on-one conversation with the team behind those efforts.
The Holy Spirit in a mother is a strong thing, right? And I hear this voice say, go check on Leo and don't believe what you're going to see. And I found him, and he was blue and gray, cold, sunken in chest, blood all over his face and limp, and I just started screaming.
The door opened and this father walked in and he raised his hands up to heaven and he was speaking in Arabic. He said, only God sees what's invisible, but today God has allowed me to see the invisible, my own son alive. I'm watching this and I'm thinking, like, this is his resurrected hope. Like, he had already mourned his son's death. He talked about mourning his son's death. And I thought, God is so real. I mean, God is really real.
And that was a preview of episode 2 of CBN's new podcast, Heaven Meets Earth, hosted by Abigail Robertson and Ryan Bethea. It's full of encouraging stories of modern miracles, and it's really growing. This week, it reached the top 10 podcasts on Apple for the Religion and Spirituality podcast. You'll have to check it out. It's really, really fantastic. And you can watch or listen now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, the CBN Family app, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Okay, with so much attention this week on the White House Faith Office, we wanted to introduce you to the two people leading it. The president called on two women he's known for many years, Paula White-Cain and Jenny Korn. CBN News senior White House correspondent Kelly Wright spoke with both of them about their roles and the work of the office.
Paula White-Cain and Jenny Korn are on a mission for the Trump administration. In leading the White House Faith Office, they will engage with leaders from various religious backgrounds. When President Trump offered the opportunity, they both saw it as an offer they could not refuse.
I've been blessed, 40 years of ministry, and I said I would be wrong and maybe even sin for me to miss the mark if I didn't fulfill this to try to make our nation what God established it to be and give the future an opportunity. Because without God and without faith, we are a lost people.
People may think, oh, well, in America, you still have all your religious liberties. But I can tell you thousands of stories of where people of faith have been discriminated against and where religion has been diminished by the government. So when we have the opportunity to come to the White House, the most amazing place as far as government goes for America, to be able to take on that mantle for other people of faith to make sure that religious liberty and religious freedom are alive and well in America, there's no way you can turn that down.
President Trump made it clear during his inaugural address that he believes America needs religion and faith in God. He followed that with an executive order establishing the White House Faith Office with the mission to assist faith-based entities in efforts to strengthen American families, promote work and self-sufficiency, plus protect religious liberty. That includes a force to address anti-Christian bias and acts of discrimination, such as the growth of anti-Semitism we've seen on college campuses. Attorney General Pam Bondi leads the task force and will work closely with the Faith Office.
You know, it will not be tolerated to spew hate and hurt to people by this administration. And if a person wants to peacefully protest, that's one thing. But this has not been peaceful. It has been hateful. It has been hurtful. And it will not be tolerated by this president or his administration. And our office enforces that very strongly. I've known Attorney General Pam Bondi for over 20 years. She's a close friend. I'm honored. She's very smart. She's very strong. She's a strong Christian, and I'm honored to work with her, and for Jenny to work with her, and for us to work with the Chief of Staff, with President, and with all the agencies to make sure that there will be no bias, no discrimination, nothing hateful or hurtful against people.
The Trump administration took action against pro-Hamas and pro-Palestinian protesters threatening Jewish students on the campus of Columbia University and Barnard College. The president also held Columbia leadership responsible, blocking $400 million in federal grants until they took action against the protest.
Just to add to that too, it matters who the leaders are.
Yeah.
In the last 4 years, and those college presidents allowed Jewish students to feel afraid, to be tormented, to be discriminated against, to be spat at, to be, violence against them, and they allowed that to happen. President Trump comes in and he's like, that's not going to happen anymore. And so he's setting an example. A lot of it is who's at the top and who's setting that example.
Beyond America, the White House Faith Office will seek to fight persecution of Christians throughout numerous countries like Syria.
We're all trying to follow these, that 1 in 7 Christians around the world are persecuted. And so we know the hot spots, we know the places.
White and Corn say the president has put faith offices throughout the departments of his entire administration. The main office operates in the West Wing of the White House. They say his goal is to see all Americans get beyond their differences, find common ground through the power of faith.
He's bringing everyone to the table, and that's the same thing with people of faith. It doesn't matter. We don't ask, are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat? When we have meetings here at the White House, we just want you to come in and have a voice. And the people who are rational thinking and want to get something done and work together for the better of America are meeting with us.
Paula White-Cain and Jenny Corn say beyond their role as leaders of the White House Faith Office, they share a hope for America. That is, to truly understand that America was founded on the principles of God. They say the nation should never shy away from that. And they add, the government cannot dictate religion, but it's important to place value in the message that is inscribed in our money, which states, "In God we trust." In Washington, Kelly Wright, CBN News.
Amen. All right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you right back here on Monday.